Do the players finally have a voice? College football teams are unionizing against the current. Are we just going to lose college football as we know it? Or is this going to fix the game for the Big 12? This is the Dos Grande Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up. It's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up. You're part of the Big 12 squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Dos Grande Squad. What happened to JT?
It's gone.
Oh, no.
It's all gone.
Oh, no.
With Utah deciding to make a change at head coach, I decided, you know what? It's time for me to make a change. So I decided for a new look this season.
Honestly, it looks better.
It's good.
You finally let go. Yeah, it looks.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, Drake. I appreciate that.
I can't even make fun of him anymore. Like now he looks kind of cool, like kind of slick. Slick, that's an intentional word there.
We need to last a break.
This is like, for those listening on audio, this is like Adam Silver-esque baldness from JT. He's just
completely. I think JT would rather like Vin Diesel or somebody. Right?
I was going to say JT Diesel in the building.
Stone Cold.
Wow.
Diesel,
Oh, wow. Live reaction for all of us from JT just having his head be bald. That's awesome.
For the folks that don't pre-production, JT had a hat on. None of us knew.
None of us knew. This is a big surprise for us. This is his lone contribution he'll probably give to today's squad show. Otherwise, he'll be bullied off stage.
Still more than Nick, though. Still more than new guy Nick.
Right. So. Hey, Nick, good to see you. How you doing, Nick?
Never know. Yeah.
Oh, if we could not swear, we'll edit that part out. Thank you, though. We could not swear. These guys were too excited. Mountaineer Paul, Locked On West Virginia. Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State. Philip Mulford of Locked On Sun Devils. JT Wistersill, Locked On Utes, and Parker Ainsworth of Locked On Cougs joining the fold today. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. Let's talk about we've talked a lot changing landscape of college football here recently. We can talk ESPN FPI being this evil being that's going to keep the Big 12 out of the playoff. We can talk about the SEC Media Days being a joke from last week, Big 10 Media Days this week, pushing down the Big 12 even further. But Paul brought up a great point off the air. Ross Dellinger's reporting some stuff that's been kind of kicked under the rug. It's only got like less than 200 likes on Twitter. He's talking about how NIL might see a salary cap. You might have a $51 million salary cap on NIL, and how Stanford is unionizing. The players are trying to take back control. We might actually see some sort of guardrails in college athletics. Paul, what's the most recent you've read?
Yeah, so basically what's going on is the College Sports Act has suddenly kind of has some new life, if you will, because, 51.3 million is the number we're hearing right now. It will be 21.3 million for under the House settlement revenue sharing cap. It would be 25 for the player retention pool. There would be a proposed $5 million credit for women's athletes. And if it becomes a legal framework, then you're talking about competing in a world where the richest programs are going to be authorized to spend more than $50 million every year on their athletes. And, obviously, you look at some of the Big 12 teams, we were searching for revenue when it was 20.5 million.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions around it. Obviously, you've got naming rights, premium seating. There's a lot of trademarking going on. How are people going to make up the difference? Can you go to the state? Because if you look at West Virginia University accounts for almost $400 million of revenue per year for the state of West Virginia. They're going to let us fall by the wayside? I don't think so. I think there's going to be answers. It's just all about how we're going to get to the 51 million mark for everybody.
And it's worth noting two things here. First of all, that this is institutional NIL spend. This is not football NIL spend or basketball NIL spend. This is West Virginia or Arizona State can spend $51.3 million on NIL, player retention, all that across every single one of their athletic departments. So it's great if you are a monosport school. It's really bad if we ever get those numbers like for Houston that wants to have a great basketball program and a great football program.
But is it bad if we're all on the same playing field? I mean, Houston then could just put $10 million more toward basketball than other schools are toward football. You can weight it however you'd like here.
Great point.
That's what I'm saying. But if you're trying to balance both versus a school that is really all-inning on one of football or basketball, that's not great.
So I actually want to take Phil's thing one step further because there is a large conference in basketball that notably does not play football.
See, aggressively loud for everybody else too.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're good. Don't change anything you're doing. Just want to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Well, no, but I was going to say is that there's one conference that plays high level basketball that doesn't even play football, right, in the Big East. And I think the deal here is like you're about to see $40 million. Like UConn's going to win I guess they technically have a football program, or like Gonzaga. Like,
and they already do win every national championship in basketball. So I mean, nothing's going to change there.
But what I'm saying though is like suddenly Marquette is going to be like a powerhouse, like a different kind of beast, right? And the deal is it's because they don't have a football program to spend on, and they could spend less than the 51 and still spend way more on basketball than everyone else can feasibly. That's the deal to me with the cap is you're limiting what the rest of us can do to keep up with that in hoops specifically.
Fair, but I think year over year, the concern is how often can Marquette produce that 40 million, right?
Right.
That's where it gets scary for a lot of these schools. And I know for Utah, even NIL wise, right? If you look at Utah's roster, there's not a single proven Power 4 player that's going to be on this football team that came in from another transfer institution. So I just feel like it's interesting the NIL place we're at right now, where year after year, can programs keep this up? Because it's not sustainable. And that's where I'm concerned for the other sports potentially. What happens to them as more and more resources get dumped into football in particular, but basketball as well, as you guys mentioned.
Hey, I mean to sit on basketball the whole time. Football is a bigger deal here, but Villanova, Marquette, Seton Hall, St. John's, and St. John's got Patino. Like they would win the next decade. I don't think that's a question to me. Like the Big 12 be competitive. We're as good as it gets in basketball, but they would be able to spend all of our football money on basketball and not blink.
Have y'all seen outside sources kind of talking about what the potential sustainability would be like? Because there's not very many teams in the country that could find a way to somehow produce $50 million a year. I think all of us could probably do it for a year or two, which would mean your return on investment's got to be absolutely massive. But I just don't understand how nationally, like there can't be but a handful of teams that could do $50 million a year.
And Cody,
we're getting closer to it, and the SEC's payout is going to put all those schools, the Big Ten's payout, put all those schools up there. I think that we can bring up, like I'd be worried about Iowa State. I'd be worried about Cincinnati. But we can bring up most Big 12 schools to that number comfortably, not at first, but if it becomes regulatory, then I think donors will say, I mean, you start to restructure how you do donorship and how I think you can get there. Of course, Utah will be there. They just got $500 million. Ish. I mean, no one can see the money, but whatever. I mean, come on. It'll be there someday. It'll be there someday.
And that monster patch is going to go a long way here, right?
Exactly.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course. There's another couple $1 million, another 1.25 in there for you. But yeah, what this does is it resets. It at least gives everybody a salary cap. You can't spend past this, otherwise bad. And I'm okay with that. That's what we've been asking for. And if teams are already spending at 50 seems like where the cutoff's going to go.
Yeah.
Here's the problem here, Drake, because that is true. However, there are some loopholes that the top schools are taking advantage of right now that would fundamentally set 51.3 as the floor. If you want to compete at the highest level, you want to be in Ohio State, you want to be in Alabama, you want to be in Georgia.
But would we not close those loopholes? Can you elaborate a bit?
It's not in the draft of the bill right now. That's the problem.
So I have another question there with Phil, because like you mentioned that 51 would be a great ceiling. I think the bigger question would be when one of those schools that can afford to go over 51 without thinking about it. I live in Texas, so I'll say the one in Austin. When they spend 60, what do we do? Like what is the real punishment when they are caught going to 60? I mean, the NBA is doing a whole deal right now with the Clippers and what they're spending on Kawhi Leonard and all that, right? Like it happens in pro sports. Why wouldn't it happen in this thing where they were paying people with brown paper bags forever? Like when you mentioned Kawhi,
there's been no punishment either. That's the
well. He got traded, and then the trade has not happened yet because of something or what I don't know. But what I'm saying is like, is it really a ceiling if no one does anything when someone goes through it?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, who's the governing body that's going to dictate this? Is it going to be the NCAA? Is it going to be the government? I mean, that's pretty important.
Another thing I think that this is going to do potentially is, okay, I think if you're the Big Ten or the SEC and you're saying, okay, so you're telling us we can't, separate everybody like we want to. Well, let's just set this limit here and see how many people it separates the men from the boys here. I do think there's some of that in here too with these negotiations as they're trying to negotiate this number. I'd be really like to see how many people actually, figure it out. And what you were talking about, Phil, we're basically talking about having a shadow payroll, these private NIL things that are going on that are circumventing the cap. How are we going to, how are you going to figure out the back channel tampering? There's a lot going on, and that isn't public. Obviously, we've seen people called out for it recently, but that's all that it's been. Like Narduzzi just called out, the Miami head coach for trying to get his quarterback. But what does that actually do except for expose him?
Well, speaking of backdoor deals, is this just another backdoor deal to create more difficulties for the Big 12 and the ACC?
I think that's let's go there next.
Boys?
Right, let's go there next, Cody. It's a great point. I mean, you're going to kill Iowa State. No, not to pick on Iowa State, but you're going to kill Iowa State with something like this. Wait,
Nick is right there.
Sorry, Nick.
Drake, where's Calvin
is that
Sampson
why he's not talking? Yeah. When we come back, that's a great question. Will we lose Big 12 schools that cannot keep up with this? Locked on Big 12. Whoa! Today is brought to you by our friends at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Look, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the exact place that I go and I need to hire for Locked On Big 12. When workplace chaos hits you and you need the right hire, when I'm pretty busy, 3 jobs working on over here and over there, I need an intern. Somebody help. Locked On Big 12 would love social media. I don't use the Twitter account. I'm the one bullying people. Come on, it's somebody else. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match the specific needs like skills, certifications, locations. So less time gets spent searching. More time gets spent in front of the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. The minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. I mean, that's it. I've needed the right person. Last fall, found the right guy to run the Twitter account, and usually the biggest difference isn't someone doing more work, it's the quality of work. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing. Listeners to this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it on Indeed. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. That's a job for Indeed. Sponsored jobs. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. I want to go to the World Cup. What did I do? Went to Game Time. I watched Lionel Messi play his final game that he won. Final match that he won in the World Cup. Why? Game Time. There are more live events than ever to see right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festival. Hard part is usually deciding how to pay for it. But with Game Time, getting the tickets is so easy, and there's no confusing checkout process, no surprise fees. Buying tickets, it's just not as hard with Game Time. It's easy altogether with Game Time, and they're cheap as they can be, at least from what I've seen. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, exclusive saving opportunities that help you get to the events you want without the usual hassle. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with every event and Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app and do it today. That is Game Time. It is the Locked On Big 12 squad. Mountaineer Paul, Cody Stovall, Philip Mulford, JT Wistersill, and Parker Ainsworth. The unfair advantage for the SEC and Big Ten. They can certainly pay this. Heck, their media rights are pushing $50+ million alone. Just that alone is pushing $50+ million year in and year out. They'll be able to do this. Many of them are already doing this. The Big 12 we have halves. Utah can do it. We know BYU and Texas Tech, they can pony up $50 million a year. Not everybody can. Like Parker, Houston hears this, and they probably aren't very excited by a $50 million salary cap. In the same way, in the same way that Major League Baseball is talking salary cap, salary floor right now, and the Marlins are saying, "Please, no floor. We can't even afford the floor, much less the cap." They wouldn't be able to afford to pay more. In the Big 12, if you said, hey, salary cap, and it's $51 million, there are some schools that just cannot afford that. It's going to push them to the wayside.
Yeah, and Houston's in a weird in-between here where, like, actually, as things have gotten more expensive and you've noticed in, like, the production, they're in the big leagues for once in a while. Like, people are kind of, like, ponying up a little bit more than they did, 8, 9, 10 years ago in a way that I think is actually encouraging. But in a bigger picture sense, I think that it's a rough spot for a school that just moved into the Power 5 and is, like, recently finished some facilities upgrades and stuff like that, right? I see all of that. I will say that whether it's the Stanford and the unionization or I think it's the Black Caucus as something along the lines of there need to be more athlete involvement here. Generally speaking, I'm kind of anti-salary cap in anything. I think, like, personally, if a guy could make more money on the open market, then they should be able to. Like, I got to add an athlete perspective, and like I want to sympathize with like the college athlete who's like, hey, I now have only 5 years to make college football money because of the 5 and 5. I'm going to make every dollar I can. How are you telling me I can't make more than that? This is the one time in my life I get to make that money, right? And so I kind of see a bunch of different angles on it. I will say that I don't think Houston is slowing down. I don't think it's as fast as some people want it to be. But Houston, I mean, they've got 3 high-end 4-star. One guy might have a 5th by the time the fall's over in football. They just committed another 4-star in basketball that's a top 40 player. I mean, like, they're doing better, frankly, as things go along here. And it might be slow, but it's happening.
Without a salary cap, things do get dangerous. Like we're kind of seeing in the Big 12 right now, where Texas Tech dominates everyone last year, and then everyone's like, wow, the Big 12 sucks. And it's like, well, hey, a salary cap could help the Iowa States of the world, as we're talking about just for this discussion, right? Push them up. Not every school has a Cody Campbell, and I think going back to what you just kind of posed a question about, Drake, it is very scary a future 10 years from now if there's not those parameters and things in place to help out some of the Iowa States, the Cincinnati's, because I just can't see year after year, 50 million, 50 million, 50 million. How does that work for them and their other sports too, especially with conference realignment coming? I think that's a scary thing.
It also leads to this problem where you're talking about where, say, Arizona State, for example, doesn't have a crazy NIL situation because for whatever reason, despite having like more graduates than anyone in the country almost in the last couple of years, not a lot of donors, kind of mid-tier. If we go commit $50.3 million a year on all of our sports, and we could probably go it up. We have a basketball arena that needs to be renovated. That's due to be, there in 2030. We have a football stadium that luckily was just renovated. But what we're going to see is, even Arizona State isn't probably in a better situation than, say, Houston is. But these schools are going to have to go and pony this money up. And then they're going to fall behind 5 years down the line because all their facilities have fallen down by the wayside. And it's going to be this crazy cliff where, you got to go and I guess to steal SMU's motto, you're going to have to pony up. And then what happens next?
Worst position until
I'm
Eddie Wall sacks Sam Levitt 3 times. I got one question, and I don't mean to cut you off here. Y'all mentioned Cody Campbell, and that's great, right? That's a lot of money. My fear is that this opens the door more for a guy named Luther Campbell, or like Uncle Luke in Miami back in the day, who was paying all the Miami players in the 80s under the table, right? I think making this like not out in the open actually just goes back to the olden days, and I don't think the 80s or 90s model where Alabama stashes a bunch of 5-stars is the only one that pays them helps any of us either. That just puts it under the table.
I hear you, but the old model got TCU to the national championship, and I can't see a path for that for them right now. Even some version of that, because yes, there's always going to be
Indiana just did it though, and TCU and Indiana are comparable in college football.
Yes, but in the new era, that's different, right? Because
that is the new era. We're in the new era.
Yes, we are. But the finances for Indiana, right? Like they're set up for success in the future. Someone mentioned Stanford earlier. I mean, I can't think of a better example of a program that's just completely fallen to the wayside. And I don't see a path for them back unless things drastically change.
But can you defend it? If Indiana can do it, why can't TCU?
I think some schools just have better resources, right?
TCU hasn't graduated Mark Cuban.
What is that?
But Indiana didn't utilize Mark Cuban for their first year. Like their ascension to fame didn't hinge on Mark Cuban. Then they went 16-0, won a national title, beat Alabama 38-3. Like, what's keeping TCU? If I asked you 3 years ago, what's a better situation, TCU or Indiana? 10 times TCU by 10. You would have thought Indiana winning a national championship was the stupidest thing ever. In this era of football, in the NIL portal era, no way Indiana does that.
You're advocating for a style of football, or for a style of funding this whole thing that the SEC won 14 straight titles in, like that, because they were all paying people under the table, right? Like that. We can talk about it openly now because it's not illegal anymore, but like guys were getting paper bags in their mailbox without names on them. Like it was just the way things were, and you're advocating for that. And we saw how that played out. That's not good for us.
So
salary cap. Go ahead, Paul.
No, you haven't went in a while. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, the salary cap thing could be massively beneficial for the players, right? That's something that I think Parker's even alluded to. Y'all were talking a little bit off air. There needs to be some association, whether it be a players association, something to that effect for the players for a multitude of things, but one of them just simply being from crappy agents. right? They need to have protections from agents, from universities that do kind of pick and choose. Hey, you have a scholarship 22 hours later. Actually, we did the numbers wrong. You can't have that. There's a lot of that backdoor stuff still happening. And if a salary cap is what is going to be allowed for these players to have some sort of protection that helps them monetarily, but also just legally, I think that is massive for a college game moving forward.
There's also a plan B, which, I mean, we may go to break, but Stanford, obviously, they're trying to do something that could catch on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's basically they're trying to unionize. And you like Fisher Anderson, Ernest Cooper, and, some people at Stanford basically formed it's a player-led campus chapter of the College Football Players Association, something along those lines. I think it's CFBPA.
Gotta have it.
And they're not stopping at Stanford. Like they say, their vision is to get the rest of the ACC on board, eventually to unionize and sit across the table from, other conference executives, which I think will be an insane, crazy. Basically, we've got now you can say maybe not yet, but if they're able to catch on with some other ACC schools, you can say for sure now that we've got two competing structures here with this, obviously this act and potentially with these kids wanting to unionize. Now, like Philip said, long way to go before that could ever happen. But if it does happen, and they're trying to make it happen, and it's Stanford, wouldn't put it past them to get it rolling. It would be interesting to see what would happen if they unionized.
You say interesting. I think it's imperative.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
100%.
All right, let's go there next. Unionizing, and does it help the Big 12? Does this help the Big 12? It's the Doce Grande Squad. It's one of the brand new partners for the Locked On Podcast Network, our new friends at Kalshi. Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at the season's end on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform. You can trade those predictions in a live market. Take the Los Angeles Rams to win the NFC title. Right now, the Rams are trading at 25% chance probability to win the NFC championship, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $400 if they win the NFC title. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, the more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app. Use code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. That's KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus. Only restrictions to eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see Kalshi.com/regulatory. All products are not available, may not be available in all jurisdictions. Kalshi. Unionizing. Didn't work for Dartmouth. Stanford's a different deal. Power 4 football team. Big name. We know this. If the players are actually fighting, actually speaking up, if they have a voice in all of this, they probably don't like a salary cap. By the way, the players wouldn't want their salaries to be pushed down or capped. That's the word for it. And honestly, if they had it their way, they probably don't like very much this Protect College Sports Act. If they're looking out for the best interest of the players, I don't think the players and the fans probably agree on much here. And that's because the players want to get paid as much as possible.
Drake, yes, but sustainability matters.
I want to give some credit where it's due. Stanford is the first program to reach the minimum to be a full program within the College Football Players Association, which was actually founded back in the pandemic. That was and I know one of the members that from fairly closely actually, and that was back in the pandemic. They were saying, hey, you can't make us for what is essentially at that point was just an after school activity because it was not paid, right? You can't make us show up to campus when you deemed it unsafe to be on campus. That was the ruling from them back then. And no campus had a full chapter. Stanford's the first one with a full chapter. And I think the deal there to me is that if something gets collectively bargained, they have representation. I don't know how close they are to collective bargaining, but they have representation if we get to that point, right?
Mm-hmm. And you're right. The top players are going to want to get paid, but I would at least like to believe that even they can see that a lot of their buddies over the last handful of years have been screwed over at one point in time. And I would think that even they would be like, all right, I don't love the idea of a salary cap, but I know I've got a bunch of homies that have been absolutely royally screwed. I may have even been screwed at some point in time. So maybe the better good sentiment will kind of kick in to some degree. And maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I have to believe that even those top end players can see that if it's for the betterment of everybody, that's going to help move the game forward instead of fracturing the game for fans even more.
You also got to assume that some of these guys are going to be able to take more than just a year-over-year look at this when they're going to say, look, if there is no salary cap and Ohio State gets to $70 million and eventually they run out of money in 3 years and it crashes and the market goes kaput because everyone has spent their money in this arms race that is unsustainable and then it all goes away. That is a lot less money to them and their friends and future players and the ecosystem than $50 million a year over 10 years. Right. Like if you take the long look of it and, some of these guys are going to go and they're not going to make the NFL and they're going to go back into the ecosystem and they're going to work within the ecosystem and try to work on the next level. It behooves them to make sure that it is a sustainable system, Cody, not just one that they're going to be able to, milk out for every tiny little bit of money they can get in their year or two that they're going to be playing.
And think about
that's why I'm just a goofy dude yelling into
as he mutes himself when he says that.
He bumped his mic.
He did, yeah. He was fired up. Really quick on the salary cap thing, though. I think the thing we got to always remember is salary caps go up. Like, think about the NBA players, what they made in the past versus what they make now. These things go up a lot. So just because even the guy, like, what he'll make his freshman year versus senior year, he can make a lot more.
And one of the, the things about labor law.
Man, between Cody and Parker, what the hell's going on?
Am I not listening? Am I here?
Parker, you have Mountaineer Paul's 2024 Wi-Fi, and Cody hit his microphone.
Yes.
We're in it. We're in it together.
I was just going to say, like when you consider one of the things that I look at when they're talking about the other side of it, which is labor law, right? Like there's a lot of protections within that, especially non-statutory labor exemptions, right? That's what these kids would get. And it would actually, and it's why the NFL is so stable, right? Because they're allowed to have a strict salary cap. They're allowed to have free agency windows. The union would give the Big 12 the legal ability to enforce some rules finally.
And it's also worth mentioning here that if this is a law, the law says $50.3 million, that is not going up, JT, unless, and I haven't read the current version of the language, and if it says, every year it goes up by 5 million or whatever. But if it has a number in the bill, that number is not changing unless there is a different, the bill changes. If you go and everyone gets to unionize, which I don't think the Big Ten or the SEC one, certainly, then you have a regularly scheduled bargaining period where you're going to say, we need the money to go up or money to go down or whatever, whatever they decide to do. But that is a far more frequent avenue to address issues than there's a law. We can't change it. We got to get Congress to make a change. And I mean, Congress making changes. Look how long it's taken to get this thing across the aisle. I mean, can't imagine the next one.
And we're about to go to recess. If they don't, if this isn't passed, they go to recess and they leave DC for vacation, and we never see
it's
them.
It's not happening until next year, if that.
Right, we're not going to.
I don't know.
This okay. It was so fun to have you. Thank you, Parker. You were really good. You did a great job for like 26 minutes of this thing, and then your Wi-Fi went out. Peace and love to you, though. Peace.
Your hair looks nice.
Yep, there he goes. So they'll recess. They'll go on vacation. We won't see. So it's funny. Hello, thank you all for making it 30 minutes into this podcast. None of this matters. they won't pass. They won't be able to pass this act because they're going to recess, and they'll revisit it next year at the earliest. And there's still so many issues and problems. I don't think it's not going to work, at least short term. And the next major thing that's going to change and affect college football will be the TV rights renegotiations of the 2029, 2030, 2031 football seasons and off seasons. That's the next tangible thing that we know something will have to give, something will break, whether it's a realignment and expansion or the money game that every school is playing. Everybody good? We're ready? We're done?
We're pooping on the parade at the end, Ray. Goodness.
I can go watch my 90 Day Fiance. Parker, any final thoughts over there? Hey, Parker.
New guy
I got about 5 pixels of him.
Yep, Parker! It is Mountaineer Paul, Locked On West Virginia, Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State, Parker Ainsworth-ish of Locked On Cougs, talking all things Houston, JT Wistersill of Locked On Utes, Phil Wolf of Locked On Sun Devils. This has been and always will be. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. The Dose Grande Squad. Paul?
For the Mountaineers.
There you go.